Hi, my name is Lena. Welcome to my channel. I'm co-hosting Sagalong 2019 with Mark Richardson from the channel Richardson Reads, Lukas from the channel Pretentious, Crystal from the channel Biblio, and Steve Donoghue. And today we are talking about King Harald's saga, or the saga of Harald HARDRADE. I will put into info box the link to playlist Sagalong 2019 that I made, where I gathered all the videos I could find. Among other booktubers that joined us are, sorry guys, Elisabeth from Bookish North. She makes very interesting, very informative videos. Tilly from Tilly's Bookshelf, Michael McGrath, sorry guys, Shannon Ridler, and the Royal Book Fellowship. And the link to the playlist into info box. So about the saga. So far it's my favorite saga. We meet Harald when he is 15 and he is in the battlefield, and his brother, King Olaf the Saint, is dead, and Harald himself is wounded and he had to flee. And he flees to Russia because he has a distant relative there. And his distant relative is Ingegerd, Olaf's daughter of Sweden, who is the wife of Yaroslav the Wise, Grand Prince of Russia. So he flees there, and Yaroslav's sorry, my cat is here. So Yaroslav employs him. At this time, Yaroslav employs Vikings. So he employs mercenaries from Iceland, Sweden, Denmark, and Norway. Maybe because of his wife. And all these nations, they spoke Old Norse. And when I tried to Google who spoke Old Norse, at least in Wikipedia, I was told that the region of the river Volga was speaking Old Norse, and so it's a region in Russia. So probably it was because of the Ingegerd, because she was a daughter of a king of Sweden, and maybe Yaroslav picked up some of the language from her, and maybe the fact that he was employing Vikings contributed to it. So, to the fact that the region of the Volga River, people of the region of the Volga River spoke a bit of Old Norse. Sorry guys, it's very late. It's actually Saturday night. So Harald had to flee, and he gets employment with Yaroslav the Wise, and Yaroslav likes him apparently, but Harald is in exile and he is extremely poor, and when he asks a hand of Yaroslav's daughter Elisabeth in marriage, Yaroslav says no, but Harald serves him, and then Harald goes to Greece and serves Greece Empress in Constantinople, and somehow all the mercenaries from Denmark, Sweden, Iceland, and Norway gathers around him. So very quickly he kind of sort of has an army. They serve with him. They are called the Varings, and he commands them. And in this, he reminded me of Julius Caesar, because he is overseas, he is biding his time, and at the same time he is training his army. he was fighting pirates, corsairs, and so he was um, gathering this experience in sea battles, and he was constantly fighting. He also was pillaging a lot of different countries. So he went to Africa, and he went to Sicily, he went to Jerusalem, and he pillaged, and all this accumulated wealth he sent back to Russia to Yaroslav for safekeeping. And when he hears that his nephew, King Magnus Olafsson, is made king of Norway, he wants to return to Norway, but the Empress of Greece doesn't want to let him go. She even puts him in prison, but he escapes and goes to Russia with his army, basically. And there he marries Elisabeth and gathers all his wealth and goes to Norway, and comes to Norway extremely wealthy man. An extremely wealthy man. So I wonder whether the reason why Yaroslav the Wise agreed to this marriage was because of the army that Harald had with him. Nevertheless, Harald marries Elisabeth and takes all his gold with him to Norway. And there he becomes a friend with Svein Olfsson, sorry guys. He was from a very good Sweden family. Well, basically he was descended from kings, or related to kings. And they become friends, they swore an oath, and the idea was that they will subdue Denmark and then they will subdue Norway. And they pillaged Denmark together and they were great friends, but King Magnus Olafsson of Norway decided that he didn't want to go to war with his uncle, and he decided to make Harald a second king of Norway, a king of Norway as well. And that spoiled the relationship between Svein and Harald. They quarreled to the point when Svein said that Harald only pursues his own interest, and he is only loyal to his own interests. And Svein tries to kill Harald during the night in his sleep. So from this moment the bets are off, and from this moment on Harald and Svein basically constantly at war with each other. Harald comes to Norway to his nephew, and he's made a king of Norway. But the idea is that the nephew, the King Magnusson, is the first king, and Harald is a king who obeys him, kind of, sort of. And I don't think that this arrangement could work for Harald, because I think Harald preferred being second to none, and the relationship between them become spoiled very quickly. I believe even at the moment when Harald was made a Queen of Norway and Harald was dividing his wealth between them, I guess it was necessary. So Harald was divided this wealth, and he took a piece of gold and asked Magnus whether he could show anything like this, such big piece of gold, whether he has it. And Magnus, all his money was spent in war. He is a king of Norway and Denmark, but he doesn't have any money. So I think it was a hint, it was an attempt to offend, to humiliate Magnus, the King Magnus. But in response, King Magnus shows Harald a small golden ring and says that he has nothing but this ring that his father gave him. And I think he hints by that he was the King of Norway, that he is a son of King of Norway, and he was a King of Norway while Harald was overseas. So I don't think that they had good relationship even at the start. But then Harald couldn't be second to somebody. I think he preferred being second to none. They don't go to war with each other, and Harald doesn't kill his nephew because his nephew falls ill and dies. So basically that's the reason why. And Harald becomes the King of Norway, the single King of Norway. And I have no idea why, maybe to piss the Harald off, but dying King Magnus actually leaves Denmark to Sweyn. So he makes Sweyn a king of Denmark, according to this saga. And that's why Sweyn and Harald are constantly at war, because Harald wants to be a king of Norway, not only a king of Norway, but a king of Denmark as well. And poor Denmark is constantly pillaged, and it was a very hard time for people in Denmark, I guess. So they're constantly at war on the territory of Denmark, and Denmark is pillaged and raided, and so on. So actually it was a very interesting saga, and I think it could have been a very interesting historical fiction series. I would read it with pleasure. So, sorry guys, it's very late. I think apart from preferring being second to none, Harald was very envious of the fame and battles, and he was not a forgiving type, and he wanted to get revenge on every person who slighted him, who opposed him. He was not a very nice man. He was a bit tyrannical, and he wouldn't stop at treachery. At some point, there is a man. His name is Einar, and he is kind of a spokesman for and a leader to for the bonds. And King Harald asks him to come and talk. So he asks him to parley and kills him and his son treacherously, of course. And actually it's the only time in the entire saga when we come across a slightly interesting female character, because the wife of Einar and the mother of Eindrid, his son, so the widow, Bergliot, she tries to make her distant relatives together to make an alliance, to lead the bonds, and to avenge her husband and her son. She tries to unite them. She tries to move them, to make them go to battle with HARDRADE, but she fails. They do not listen to her. But at least she speaks out. Of course, she is not such an influential figure as Odd the Deep-Minded was, and she cannot lead the attack herself. But I think she had much more guts than her relatives had at this point. And this saga is actually full of small stories of people who were close to Harald or Sweyn, or sometimes to Harald and Sweyn. And they are very interesting characters. Earl Haken, for example, he is a very interesting character. Apart from being a very handsome man, he gets married to King Magnus' daughter, and he becomes Earl, and he is a very talented in sea battles. He becomes a very famous man for one sea battle. So he is a very interesting man and a very interesting character. As for female characters, they are kind of just there. Very strange fact about HARDRADE. He had two wives. First, he was married to Queen Elisabeth, the daughter of Yaroslav the Wise. But she gave birth to two daughters, and she didn't have any sons. And it was probably a political marriage. He married Thora, daughter of Thorberg Enense, and she gave him two sons, Olaf and Magnus, or Magnus and Olaf. So he had two wives, and I guess it's very strange to this particular country and to this particular time period, because people were speculating about that, and they think that probably Queen Elisabeth was left in Russia, or maybe she was dead by the time, but according to this saga, he actually had two wives, and Thora is called the wife, and Queen Elisabeth is Queen Elisabeth. And it was very interesting, but we are never told the entire story. We are never told about was there any drama between them? What was their lifestyle? Because we cannot not notice the fact that Queen Elisabeth didn't have sons, and sons are the heirs. So it's very interesting. It's a very interesting story. And at this time, it was a very bad luck to live in Denmark, I guess. And we are caught about a lot of battles between Sweyn and Harald. And at some point, I like the story very much. Harald actually challenged Sweyn to battle, and when they actually met, it turned out that Sweyn had more ships, more men, so he had advantage in manpower and ship power. And so it was actually very late in the day, and so Harald had to flee, and for that, I guess he was kind of trapped into a smaller body of water by the ships of Swain, and Harald and his men, they actually carried their ships through a narrow peninsula into another body of water. And I have no idea, judging by the size of the ships, how they could do it at night and noiselessly to boot. I have no idea, but that's the way the story goes. They carried their ships through the patch of earth. So it was very, very interesting. And there are a lot of stories about different tricks that Harald employs. I guess half of them are kind of a fairy tales, oral traditions, basically lies, but they're very interesting, nevertheless. Then we end this saga with Harald trying to conquer England and became a king of England, and he's slain in battle. And some people say that with the death of Harald HARDRADE, the age of Vikings ended. And although he fails to conquer England, I think he weakens England quite a bit. So the story is another Harald is a king becomes a king of England after the death of Edward the Confessor, I think. So he becomes the king of England, but he is actually brother-in-law to Edward. He wasn't an heir. And of course he has an elder brother who thinks that he has a better claim to the throne. And this elder brother brings Harald HARDRADE with all his power, with all his army, to conquer England. And England is weakened, although Harald himself is slain, Harald HARDRADE is slain. England is weakened, and probably in this battle influenced the outcome of the battle at Hastings, and so with the death of Harald HARDRADE starts the Norman conquest of England. So it was extremely interesting as well. Right now, it's a coincidence, but I am listening to Ivanhoe by Walter Scott, and I am enjoying it very much. So it was very timely for me, the saga and Ivanhoe. And at the time when Harald dies, he is 50 years of age. It was extremely interesting. It was full of adventures. Of course, all this pillaging and raiding. I cannot forget and omit that at these parties, at this pillaging, people were killed and robbed. So it was extremely interesting, but I am kind of feel guilty that I enjoyed it. And I wanted to talk about one of the books. It's a mystery by Alice Peters. It's called The Summer of the Danes. And it kind of, the story is a bit similar to the end of the saga. Here, two brothers in Wales. One of them is Prince of Wales, Owen Gwynedd, and the other Cadwallader. Cadwallader was dispossessed. His lands were taken from him because he is a great troublemaker, and he slayed someone before that previously. So he was dispossessed, and he brought an army of Danes to fight his brother and to return his lands, and he has no money to pay this army. He wanted to pay them when he is victorious, and he decides to just send them home, threatening them, his allies. So he threatens them with his brother and his army, his might. But Danes, they have their own ideas. Of course, they don't go home. And it's very interesting, and it's highly entertaining and heartwarming. So, and it's by Elisabeth. It's one of the Brother Catfell's mysteries. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and happy reading.